To A Hacker Called with Hank and Tori. Today we're talking about technical difficulties because we just had about a half hour of technical difficulties. Well, 27 minutes of technical difficulties where I tried to play the song or the beginnings of the song that I've created and failed. And earlier, Hank was talking about his troubles with VPN, and I was talking about yak shaving, which is what I've been doing recently. I got a PC, and I want to turn it into a Linux box so I can experiment with like, what do you call it? InfoSec? Hacking, trying to like security, messing around with like security and seeing how secure the internet is and stuff. I don't know. So I was going to install. I think it was called. I don't know. I'm embarrassing myself if there's any InfoSec people out there. They probably know off the top of their head what that version of Linux is. And so anyway, to get there, a friend of mine gave me her computer that had the battery blew up. And so she's like, "Do you want this?" I'm like, "Sure." And so it's an older computer. I bought a new battery and through Amazon, and it I searched the model and make and battery and bought the thing, and it came and it was the wrong uh, battery. So I figured out, here's a tip when you're ordering on Amazon: don't use Amazon to verify that it's the right computer. Go find the part somewhere else, and then make sure you order that part, because Amazon doesn't know. They'll try to sell you something kind of related that's not the thing you want. But anyway, sent it back, wasn't a big deal, and got that one. Then I realized the battery was dead. So, or sorry, the hard drive was dead. So I ordered another hard drive, and came back, and it was an SSD drive. I'm like, you know what? This is actually a better drive than I have in my current system. So why don't I replace my current hard drive with this one? And so I had to figure out how to make a clone of my current drive, and I did that, and then found out. I opened up the computer and found out that it was actually a different shape hard drive, because SSDs aren't like hard drive shape. They're almost like this bubblegum stick. So I'm like, oh damn! So I ripped the thing apart and found out that you actually have one of those bubblegum sticks in there. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I formatted it, and then found out I need a pentalobe screwdriver. Because I knew I needed a pentalobe screwdriver, but I'd opened up my Mac so much so on the back that the screws come off easily with a flathead. So I basically stripped those, but it's okay. I have a case on the back of my laptop that'll actually fit it in without the screws. So it works for now. So I ordered screws and a pentalobe screwdriver online, but the next barrier is to get at that hard drive. I need there's a fresh pentalobe screw. So I got to wait till Wednesday for that to come in, take that apart. And then I need to figure out how to separate. It's kind of glued. The SSD is kind of glued into this part. Here, I can actually show you. Oh yeah. So this is the inside. So this sort of bubblegum stick is glued to this, and it looks like it's just a double-sided sticky tape thing. So I gotta sort of look up and see how to get that off. I'm thinking just a hairdryer will melt it and I could pull it off or something. So anyway, trying to just get a cheap computer has turned into like a week and a half work. Week and a half worth of work.
It doesn't really look to me like standard exchangeable components.
I think it is, and if it's not, I can just put it back.
No, maybe it is, but I mean, I thought nowadays there's like two kinds of SSDs. I mean, ones are kind of a copy of a hard drive, and the other ones are the PCB style.
Sorry. I was leaving out a detail. I actually have this one. It's the one I ordered, which is It's inside here. So I haven't actually ripped apart this one. I ripped apart this little guy that I had before.
Right.
And inside this one was the bubble gum. This one might be, but I don't want to mess with it. So,
of course, yeah.
But
Yeah,
the other one was
that,
old.
that
I messed with it.
looks more standard, right? It's 2.5 inch.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I feel like if I rip this apart, I might find one of those bubblegum stick things in
That
there.
could be. That could be.
But I don't know if I want to mess with that. I mean, maybe. I'm the kind of guy that would.
Yes. By now I know. I already figured out.
Yeah.
First I wanted to say what a sorry excuse for a hacker you are, and then I thought, no, he's actually like the perfect hacker.
Yeah, it's just kind of like throwing myself at it and seeing what yeah. I'm not a skilled hacker. I'm just a which I guess, I don't know, a skilled hacker is kind of an oxymoron, right? If you're skilled, you're a professional, you're not a hacker. Yeah. So just before we got on, I found out this really cool story. Have you heard of Shein? It's a fashion company. It's super cheap women's fashion, and it's straight from China, and they've sort of done away with the middleman, and it's like they have an English word website, and so there's no store, you can only order online, and it comes super fast because they've figured out the shipping, and they basically copy whatever is fashionable, and they can do it so fast they come up with this like cheap version of it and ship it to you. And the women that if you Google Shein haul, they'll just order a bunch of stuff, and then they'll do these unboxing things, and it's great for them because it's even if it doesn't, if it falls apart or if it's the wrong size, it doesn't matter because it was so cheap. So they have these like unboxings where they put them all in stuff. But one of the major concerns is each individual article of clothing comes in its own bag, so it's very wasteful. So there was this graduate student, her name, I just looked it up, is Ava Grand. And as her thesis project as a fashion designer, she took a bunch of the Shein bags and made some clothes out of the recycled Shein bags. So I thought that was a really cool sort of like hacker fashion project.
Yes. I think it's quite common for students to use packaging waste and other waste for fashion and art projects to create awareness of the problem. In this specific case, I think they have very little chance of success because even though you're very cheap as a fashion brand, you still want your customer to be happy. And in general, customers want to have their purchase packed in something so it arrives clean and unwrinkled.
Yeah.
It's for the same reason, like people want to have a new phone without fingerprints from the assembly line. But there are phones like the Fairphone who leave the fingerprints on purpose because
really
they actually use like some like alcohol or other stuff to wipe off the fingerprints, and that means there is extra labor, but also extra chemicals and whatever. Maybe it's not alcohol, or something else used in the process to make that phone really clean before they pack it. And with those quantities, like if you count like all the other phones in the world like do that, that's pretty tough on environment. Plus it raises the cost. And if you don't have to do it, it's easy on the environment and it saves money. Not that the Fairphone is cheap; it's more expensive than the others, but you got the point.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm looking at the site right now.
I'm not sure if they have it there, but the founder was at Troublemaker 2018.
Oh, wow.
Took the Fairphone apart. It's a Dutch guy, by the way.
Sorry. I thought you were saying the founder? Fairphone went through the Troublemaker?
Well, he just visited, and then he had a phone with him and he took it apart because it's like a Lego system. And then he talked about one of the things what they do is leave the fingerprints on. So he told that to me in person, and I don't know if that is anywhere. It's probably somewhere in a blog or whatever, but I mean I don't know how easy that would be to find.
Huh. That's really cool. Yeah, I like that. There's sort of this. I've been hearing in the media anyway that millennials, which are sort of the age of people coming of age now into adulthood, are more concerned about the environment than past generations, which I think is awesome. I'm Gen X, so our sort of attitude was like we got fucked by the baby boomers, so like fuck you, we don't care about anything, which it's kind of embarrassing. It sucks, but I mean, you can't really like generalize that much, but it's a good sort of media way of thinking about the generations. I don't know. I kind of like that. I really like that. I mean, we have to consider the environment now.
Absolutely.
As we should have in the past, more and more. It's at least in the conversation. I saw a conference about I think it was about packaging, and then I can't remember what the conference was, but they had this thing on sustainable packaging, and they were talking about like every product you like to make it sustainable is there's just these tons of like balances. It's a balancing act of like how sustainable you can be and still sell your product. It's a big problem. I do remember I don't remember their name, but when I did a hacker trip through China in Shanghai, we met these two women that used plastic bags, like the plastic bags you get everywhere, shopping bags, grocery bags, and they found a way to melt them down and make these sort of pucks out of them, and you can make bowls and different items out of them, and they were doing that. But it's I don't know, it's it's a huge problem. I like to see innovations around that space, though.
But I mean, there are thousands or tens of thousands of people worldwide focusing on this problem.
Yeah.
And it's probably that young generation mostly, because like they have a full life in front of them, and they want to live in a clean world.
Yeah.
So I know we had a team in one of the hackathons winning with a concept for food delivery, where the packaging can be reused. So I mean, like when you order food, it's delivered, that you can return the packaging to the restaurant. Maybe in the next delivery they pick it up. I mean, that's not the point, but the idea is that they would the packaging is strong enough to be reused and cleaned.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see you could send plates and knives and forks that are like restaurant quality, and you just charge the customer for it, and then when they send it back, you give them back, like a deposit or something.
Like, I mean, we do that with PET bottles in Europe. It's like there is a price on the bottle, but when you pay, there is an add-on price. Let's say 50 euro cents. I mean, I'm so long time out of Europe, but let's say 50 euro cents. So if you buy 10 bottles, you pay €5 extra when you shop. But then when your bottles are empty, you can bring them back to the supermarket, and there is a machine who kind of eats them and then gives you a ticket. and
Huh.
you give the ticket when you pay, and then they deduct the amount of that. So if you bring 10 bottles
Oh,
back,
that's
you have
cool.
a small ticket which is worth €5. And when you pay and you bring another 10 bottles, let's say you buy another 10 bottles, then you would have to pay 5, but your ticket would balance that out.
Huh. Well, in Beijing, we would me and my roommates would sort of pitch in and get the beer, and we'd get a whole case, and from the corner liquor store, and they just gave us. They knew that we drank a lot of beer, so they gave us one of these cases to hold the beer, and we just like drink them and put three in the fridge, and as we drank them, put one back and put another one in the fridge, and then once that thing filled up, whoever was the unlucky one to drink the last beer would take it down. They'd exchange it for another one that was full and take the
Yeah.
and get the discount for that.
So the same for the crates. If you buy a crate of beer in a supermarket, you pay probably like €5 for the crate, which you get back when you bring the crate back.
Ah, cool. Yeah, here in America, I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but you can recycle plastic, but you can't actually recycle plastic almost every time. So the plastic industry has put a number with a recycling logo around it, and all of those numbers except for like I think it's three aren't recyclable. They're just there to make you think it's recyclable. It causes a huge problem, and it makes the consumer just feel like they're recycling, and they're not. It's horrible. And then even the ones that are recyclable, most times don't get recycled because it's not worth it financially for the recycling places. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like
My
seasonally they will recycle it, but not always.
One of my friends is currently working on an AI waste bin.
Hmm.
It's pretty wide device. So I mean, you throw your waste in an entrance, and the cameras will figure out what it is, and then they will drop all the waste in the respective baskets, so you don't have to. I mean, the point is like people want to drop the waste in the right
Yeah.
basket, and his idea actually came like they had a beach party, and they had this like huge amount of waste, and they're standing in front of this lineup of containers, and he said, okay, what goes where? And
Yeah.
then like, yeah, okay, we don't have time to think, so everything goes in landfill. But even if you would take the effort, like if you have a paper cup, a paper coffee cup, you would want to throw it in the paper recycling, but it's not because it has a plastic liner on the
Yeah.
inside to avoid, and it actually has to go in landfill because it cannot be recycled. People don't know,
Right.
and an AI waste bin is trained to know, so it would put it in the right basket, and so it's not like people don't want to recycle; they're just
Yeah.
not educated to do that, and it's also not worth their time to do that, and they shouldn't have to do it in this case.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
that said, I think he's got a long way ahead to make this work correctly because I think it's
Yeah.
fairly complicated.
Well, here in America, each state it recycles differently, and sometimes county by county. So, like when I visited Arkansas, for instance, and they didn't recycle. I think it was glass they didn't recycle just in this one neighborhood.
Mm.
And here, like my neighbor down the street is in a different area, so they compost, but it hasn't reached me yet. And also, like some states have laws. Like California is probably the most environmentally friendly state of any other state in the United States. Um, but it's like I don't know. It's a huge problem, and I don't think it's really the consumers. Like the plastics industry has sort of educated and us that we should recycle, which we should, but they're making it our problem that we're not recycling plastic, even when you aren't able to recycle plastic. So it's horrible. Um, it needs to change. So I like all these ideas, like using the Sheen um, packaging to make clothes. An AI machine that separates plastic. But I think it's got to be an industry wide thing where the industry changes and like it has to sort of clean up their act.
The places where I see things work is in living communities.
What do you mean by
I
living
mean,
community?
Yeah, the example what I want to give is there was a story about like a whole block of apartments, and all the apartments had this kind of airplane toilet. So it's like the vacuum toilet,
Oh, okay.
which uses very little water.
Mm.
And all their waste would be collected in one central place, and it would be cleaned in the facility and redistributed as drinkable water because it's totally clean.
Mm.
And because you use way less water, and it was not only this, they did much more things, but this is the example what I wanna give now. Like this is not doable as one single household. You cannot make that whole installment just for yourself. But if you have 2,000 apartments, then there is enough. You can share the cost over 2,000 households, plus the people who have to do the maintenance for the machines and whatever. And on scale, that works. And the same, in my opinion, goes for your recycling. Like if the collection of garbage is done in the right way, and I say that because I've lived in the 1980s in Amsterdam in flat building, because flat, it's not flat, but it's
a flat
vertical, 10 stories high. And we had this kind of garbage tube. So every floor near the elevator, you could open a thing, you could drop your garbage in, and it would fall 10 floors down into the, and it was extremely smelly because there was no air filtering, whatever. So you open that and you smell this garbage smell. So if you are able to avoid those kind of things, then all the garbage can be collected in one central place, and then you have enough volume, and like if everybody pays some maintenance fee, then you have enough budget to install something there to do the recycling the right way. And if you do that with every block, then I think you have potentially a way to scale that up.
Yeah, I think it's just better for the environment to have high-rise buildings, because when you spread out, because when you have a high-rise building, all the utilities and electricity goes to one place. You have to build less of it, because if everyone's spread out, you actually have to have larger sewage systems, larger power lines, and all that. So I think just by the fact of having a high-rise apartment building is much better for the environment. Like
Probably.
even without any of the the extra things you're talking about.
But if for areas where that's not available, we can still create like mini hyperloops for collecting the garbage and bringing it to one central place.
That does sound cool. Yeah, like right now, I don't really have the ability to compost because I live in there's an HOA, which is you know what HOA, housing something association.
Sounds like ho.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the all the neighbors have agreed on laws, and you pitch into this, and it means like they'll clean your lawn, and they'll you know, if your roof is broken, they'll fix it, but in exchange you can't plant your own plants. You have to put a car in your garage. You can't have a garage just full of stuff. And there's all these like sort of little rules like that to make it a better neighborhood for everyone. But one of the bad things about it is like we can't compost because it would be bad for the neighbors, and we don't have the room. We wouldn't be able to because of the HOA. So I mean, I suppose if the neighbors cared enough and they could change that or whatever, but there's just these limiting things that that just sort of like pop up. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, I think that's what societies are all about, right? Like everybody says we have freedom of this and freedom of that. But if you live in a society, you also make agreements with each other.
Yeah.
And I think the problem there is like the agreement is made by majority, and that means there's always a percentage of people which is unhappy. So I mean, in our company, we have 5 directors. We only agree on unanimous decisions. If a decision is not unanimous, we just don't go ahead. We just keep pitching or editing the pitch until we find a way that all 5 can agree on.
Interesting.
To avoid having directors gradually grow unhappy with being in the company.
Huh. Is that working so far?
So far, yes.
Very cool.
I beat hard enough.
Yeah.
And it also teaches you to debate. I mean, it teaches you to convince, to sell.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I've been reading Simone de Beauvoir. She's a feminist, sort of, maybe postmodern, existentialist. She's married to Sartre, so she was, she knew about existentialism because I'm sure she talked to him all the time and wrote her own like existentialist pieces. But she was saying that we are all free within a cage. So it's just a matter of how big of a cage are you willing to accept. So there's no such thing as like absolute freedom.
Yeah, like, I mean, we're not allowed to drop any garbage off the balcony, but I live on the 35th floor, so I mean,
right.
Like if you throw a screw downstairs, it can potentially become a lethal weapon.
Right.
You know,
are you on the 34th floor right now when we're recording this?
Yeah, 35th.
Wow, cool. I'm on the ground floor. If I walked out my window, I'd like be in the grass out there.
If I do that, I'm on the balcony.
Wow.
But I have an amazing view. I mean, like I'm very happy with this specific apartment because most of this high rise, they're watching at other buildings, and you have no view. And we're on the outside of what I call a compound. And below here is a school which is not so high, and there's 2 metro lines merging, and then I see the mountains in the and I can look like 20 kilometers or something, maybe even more, on a clear day. And so I tend to use it as a relaxing place. Make pictures.
On your balcony? I lived in Xi'an, and I was on the 26th floor, I think, and it was a view of bigger buildings, and there was sort of like some like a soccer field or something, so I could see something, but I couldn't see as far as like mountains or anything, and there was no balcony, so it was kind of oppressive. But I felt good being on the 27th floor. It was nice.
If there is no balcony, I don't choose the apartment. I need a balcony. And it's like weird because you see a lot of people who buy these apartments, they make windows on the balcony because they just want to have another room.
Yeah. I've seen that so many. Or they'll put like bars over it. They'll put cages.
Bars is well, and that's the thing. Like before I had kids, and when the kids were not able to stand up, it was fine without bars. But when your kids getting on the age that they're able to climb on chairs and not old enough yet to be smart enough, the feeling to have bars in an apartment on a high floor is really comforting because you're not always able to watch them. So I started to not see the bars anymore in my previous. This apartment doesn't have bars, but my previous where we lived, where we moved to when my wife was pregnant, had bars, and I stopped seeing them because of the benefit of having peace of mind for my kids.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it didn't feel like a cage.
No, before it did, but like. We were the first one living in that apartment, and the landlord was willing to make that investment. And then in the begin, they also have these very thin lines. They are metal lines with plastic cover on the balconies, so they're very thin.
Oh,
You can very easily see through. But in the beginning, I didn't even want them.
yeah.
And then when my kids were getting like whatever, 3 or something, we installed it because like they were starting to get chairs on the balcony and do things, and I started to feel stressed,
Yeah.
And there we only lived on the 6th floor, but I mean, it's still
Yeah.
it's still 6 floors.
Yeah, I was when I was living in Beijing on the maybe 8th floor. I can't remember. It might have been 11th. I don't know, but it was up there. I got a really long extension cord so I could charge my scooter, and like dropped it all the way down to the ground, and then eventually I don't know if whatever authority found me and told me I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, because just right across the street, someone else was doing it, but I guess it was just for whatever
No,
reason.
I mean, if they don't see it, and if like the point is like if someone in that committee there sees it and actually mention it, then they have to take action. As long as they pretend they didn't see it, then nobody takes action.
Yeah. So
I actually had
I
a
understand,
mountaineering rope on my balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case, like if there would be a fire.
Oh, yeah.
I could just drop down the mountaineering rope from the balcony 6 floors and slide down with my kids.
Yeah,
Never had
that's
to
cool.
use.
Well, that's a cool thing to have, though. That's great.
I was wondering here, but now I'm on the 35th floor. I'm need a freaking long rope.
Yeah, make a rappelling thing, like I don't
bungee.
know. Yeah, you'd have to get like what 4 of them are for you and your wife and however many kids you have. You got 2 kids?
Yes.
Yeah, so you get 4 different rappelling devices.
I can have one on my as a backpack. I can put him in a harness and put him.
Oh,
on
there
my
you
back.
go. Yeah, so just 2 then. 2 and 2 backpacks. Awesome. Oh man. Well, so
I'm almost as high that I can just use a parachute. I mean,
wow, yeah. Base jumping. Oh my. Yeah, make a zip line. Oh, that'd be cool. So you just do get like a harpoon that shoots across. You have to you have to meet your neighbor across the way on the second floor.
Now you make me feel like James Bond.
Yeah.
Like you zip line and.
That'd be awesome. Oh man. So I'm thinking this is the segment of the show where we figure out what we're going to talk about next time. Talk about this. Yeah.
Last time you asked me to prepare something to show.
Oh, yes.
And
okay.
I think it was more like we talk about a certain either something what is foolish or smart. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. And I didn't do my homework, but since I printed this thing, just a piece of plastic, I think it's worth to talk about.
Yeah, please.
Like if you look on the back side, you can see number 1 here.
Yeah.
And if you look on the other side, you can see a 0.
Yeah.
And here it's a little bit more complex. So the thing is, you put this on your in the sun, and it has to point in a certain direction. So you have to outline it correctly. And then when the sun moves, every 10 minutes, that's why the last one is always a 0. The time jumps, so it would show 1340, 1350, and then it would go to 1400. And this is digital, so you get light of the sun, which shines through this kind of maze of. This is the most complex one. Can you see that yet?
Yeah.
Through this maze of 3D printed things, and based on the angle, a certain digit comes out. So there is a shadow from this black thing, but where the sun comes through, the light beam goes through, there is no shadow. So you see a number very clearly in the shadow. You see really clearly. You see this time digitally on the floor of your balcony or garden, wherever you
That's
put it.
amazing. Did you
And I mean,
have
it's
you
freaking
used it?
exciting.
It works?
Yes, we haven't installed it yet because I didn't buy the screws.
Oh,
It's 4 parts, so you need to kind of screw it together so you can install it right. And I didn't get the screws yet, but we just held it in our hands until we found that if we move it a little bit, that we can see the time changes,
oh, that's
and
so
that was
cool.
yeah.
I
So
think I saw that probably in the Troublemaker chat, and I really want one. I think I should.
so the file is downloadable,
Yeah,
and
it's open
then
source, right?
it's just an STL file. You can 3D print it. This is um, it's called DLP printed, like normal filament printing.
Oh, right.
Nothing fancy.
And it's enough resolution. That's the thing that I was when I first saw. I was like,
Yeah.
Does it?
Yes. Like if you look at the back,
Yeah.
you
It has to
see
be a
that.
pretty high quality print, though, not? Or
Yeah, but I mean everything is closed except for these lines.
oh, okay.
And that's good enough. Of course, you have to clean it up a little bit. Like,
Huh. Did you do you have a printer, or where did you print that?
so in this case, I asked someone because I don't have a 3D printer at
Okay.
home. But we have a Snapmaker 3D printer, and we have 3 other 3D printers at Troublemaker in the lab.
Cool.
But I have friends who have a 3D printing factory. So
Nice.
I just sent the files and they sent this to me. I mean, I was a little bit lazy.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
I didn't want to say that out loud in a hacker class, but I mean,
no, I mean,
since
to
you
me,
asked me,
hacking is doing it just the way you can do it. Like, I don't think it's applying, like you have to learn a new language, you have to learn C# or whatever because you're doing this project. I mean, yeah, if that's what it takes, but you can just do what do you call it? Copy the code and not know what you're doing as long as it works. I think that's sort of like I think that's the essence of a hacker. I mean, maybe if you want to study it, but I don't think that makes you a hacker. That makes you a professional, 3D printer or whatever. I think that you've done it the hacker way, of just finding a way to have someone else print it or something. I mean, I think you can go online and there's places you can send it. Here in America, like you just send your file and they'll print it for you, and you can get printed in gold or plastic or whatever.
Yeah, and I also think there are probably groups of people who do this for each other. So it's like you don't probably have to pay a lot.
Well, when I was paragliding, there is this device that as you lower, it beeps. As you lower in altitude, it beeps at you, and as you go higher, it beeps in a different way. And there's this little thing that's commonly 3D printed that you can stick it onto your harness, and it's sort of like this hacker thing that a bunch of like a lot of paragliders use. So
the device is called a variometer.
Yes, right, variometer. Vario.
Yeah,
they just call it a
done
vario.
I've done some paragliding.
Oh, really? Ah, cool. Oh, so I took the class, and then apparently I was unteachable, and so the teacher said, "Okay, don't continue the class." So I don't know. So I'm saving up because I have to take the class again. It's another few $1,000 and get the equipment and get another teacher at a different location. So I'm sort of I tend to make things a little more complicated than they have to be for some reason.
Maybe.
But I like to think it's not my fault because it's never really anything I do intentionally. But things just seem to get complicated around me.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on this.
Oh, cool. What is that?
Well, I mean, of course, it's a hat.
Right.
But we made a project with my kids. So this is a carton from a box of coconut milk,
Oh, cool. Okay.
and I wanted to teach my guys how to calculate
Oh,
the
wow.
circumference of a circle. So I wrote the formula down on that board behind me. 1 second.
Yeah.
There we go. Is that readable?
Yeah, R equals C over 2T. Yeah, radius circumference pi.
2 pi.
Oh, yeah. R, yeah, radius equals circumference over 2 pi. Oh, yeah, I can see it now. Yeah.
So and then below is the circle, and then the orange line, and that's the radius, and then the circumference is 54. So the point is, like, we wanted to make this hat. So we took a measurement length, and like the circumference is of their head is 54 centimeters.
Cool.
And then we calculated what the radius was, and then we drew with a compass. We drew the circle with that radius. Then we added 1 centimeter here and 1 centimeter here, but we subtracted 1 here and 1 here, so it became an oval.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then we cut that out, and that part we're using here. And then that circumference, I made a straight piece. And we calculated how many holes we need if we make a hole every 2 centimeters, like 1 centimeter from the edge. And then sew everything together with a red lint, make a nice lint around it, and then we had a hat. So they had a lot of fun.
Yeah, but
making this. I mean, and we did together. So we had a family moment. We had a lot of fun together, and they learned at 7 years old to do this kind of algebra thing, which eventually, like, if they get into that later, things will come easier to them because they already have touched on it. It's not like you have to make them algebraists at this age, but I mean, they're busy with this thing. It's getting like a natural thing to think about variables and formulas.
How did you just come up with this idea, or did you see it online, or?
So the school had a project where they said you have to make your own clothes out of reused materials.
Oh, okay.
And everybody did different ways. But I had this idea to make a hat. And then I thought, well, let's just do the formula thing and do a little bit more than just create, like, just estimate how big things need to be, like kind of calculate. And I mean, we're makers, right? We try to do things a little bit in a smart way, make less mistakes. And I mean, if you're working with your kids, you try to give them that experience.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Cool. Well, I guess the thing I shared was trying to get my computer to work. I don't know if I've I've been using so I borrowed for the song, I borrowed a friend's thing, and I'm using, oh no, hold on, this silly, I turn the tracking off of my camera so you can see me. Oh. Hello. So I got this thing borrowed from my friend, and it's this is what I've been making the song on, this in GarageBand.
Yeah. A real Akai.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna use is Akai like a professional brand or something? I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, I know it for years. I think yes, it is a professional.
Oh, cool.
I mean, they come in various sizes and shapes. But as you can see, it's got probably got drum pads and other things or buttons and I think it's a synthesizer more than a piano.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say, but
the thing what I really want to have is a loop deck.
Oh yeah, I've wanted to experiment with playing guitar and looping it with pedals, and putting and sort of trying to do some sort of live show where I have effects and I can sort of layer things playing live. I haven't really gotten there yet. Oh, and then for our show, haven't added I haven't added it yet, but I made some lyrics using text to speech, so it sounds like a robot. So we'll see how that comes out.
I mean, there are lots of improvements in text to speech, so they start to sound pretty okay. But even in the best ones, once you hear that voice robotic. Regularly, yes, of course, in our case, yes. But so far I haven't. I mean, like there's like loads of YouTube videos who use those things, and you start to recognize them. Even if they're good, you start to recognize them.
Yeah, there's a Vocaloid. It was this. I think it is a copyright term, maybe, but anyway, Hatsune Miku was a Vocaloid. Oh, it's a piece of software. Yeah, and it's by Yamaha. So you can use this sort of anime character, Miku, to create songs with this piece of software, and she sort of has a following, and you can. I don't know.
I have a story about that as well.
Oh yeah, please tell. You probably have a better story than I do.
I think it was in the also the 80s or the 90s. I really don't know for sure, but we had the first 3D newsreader character on internet. There was a software company that had created her, and it was good, but of course not compared to what we have now. But it was pretty good, and it's an attractive character. And then I wrote an email to that company sending her virtual flowers. And the developers, because I mean they were just developers, he wrote me back like, do you understand that this is like not real? Yeah. And I said, yes, of course, I understand. That's why I'm sending virtual flowers and not real ones. But I'm just a fan, and maybe it's a good idea to create a fan club for her. And then they actually did that. They actually created a fan club for her on the website.
Do you remember what her name was?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, and I have this feeling like I sparked the whole thing of fan clubs or for virtual characters, that it's because of me.
Wow, cool. Yeah, Miku has a following. I think she's done live shows where she's like projected or like like a 3D projection, and she's given concerts.
Yes, I can imagine.
Cool. Well, I actually have to go to the restroom, so let me, I guess, pause. We'll come back.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Ah. Why is it still following me?
I don't have that problem. I have a very static camera.
All right, I'm back. So hopefully I can cut that out, which means I have to open some video editing software before I post it. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I actually have some of these I wanted to show you. So working with some, did I show you these before? I don't know if I actually had any in person.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they're really cool.
Cool. Okay.
I don't know if you showed them in the show, but you showed them to me at least.
So we are actually selling these. I have them. I'm selling them at a gallery, and we've sold 3 of them so far. They're retailing for $150. So they're actually doing better than I expected. I'm still not making a profit on the whole thing, but it's a working project to sell these for my Chinese colleagues.
Yes.
They seem to be working. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Did you hear about the Testicuzzi?
No, what's that?
It's a jacuzzi for your testicles.
Oh, what?
Yeah, just Google Testicuzzi. The thing here is like these things, they usually cost like $69, but at a certain moment they came with a gold-plated limited edition, and that sold for $10,000 and it was straight sold out.
There's a Father's Day special.
Yeah, but look, like if you like Google what is the price of a golden Testicuzzi, you'll see like it's sold for $10,000 each, and it's just gold plated. Like it's not even like massive gold or something. It's so people are buying stuff which is not really useful,
right?
And especially the golden one, because they can afford it, and they like there is a market for everything. And in your case, like you're doing already something really interesting, and I would just say think it even through a little bit more, like add a cost to it, for example, like a recycling cost or anything else, and come up with something in a limited edition. And these are all one-offs, I know, but I mean, come up with something what doesn't return what you can even sell for $1,500 instead of $150.
Yeah.
Because that kind of thing, if done right, will create such a marketing buzz that the other ones are gonna sell much faster.
Well, one of the ideas, this is the wasp, for instance. It comes with a little plastic jewel on it. Like I can make that a diamond, and all of a sudden it's what, 1,500 or however much a precious stone is worth, and I've raised the price.
That is not a bad idea, because diamonds come with inclusions, and then they're actually very cheap to purchase. But it's still a diamond inside, so people know, so okay, I have this with this really big diamond, and even though the diamond is basically like $50, it's still big.
Inclusion? What do you mean? Like it's imprecise, or?
There's either air bubbles or there is like black spots.
Oh, I see. So some kind of imperfection.
Impurities, yes. And that's very common. Like basically every diamond has those, but of course you can have ones who don't, or you can like cut away the parts or whatever. Like the purer they are and the more white they are, the more valuable they are.
Oh.
So you always you put them on a scale next to other diamonds, and you measure subjectively the color, and then you go look through and you look does it have inclusions? And yes, how many, how big, how visible?
Oh, wow.
And that's how you determine the cost. And then of course they have to be cut and grind to a certain shape, and then how well that is done determines the cost.
Wow.
I actually done a training on this myself with my first wife together.
On how to cut diamonds?
No, on how to grade diamonds.
Oh, wow.
And we were trading jewelry with diamonds for a while. So we never had more than 10 or something, but we were able to buy that very cheap, and they were already jewelry. So there were already rings of silver or gold with a diamond inside, which was not even that expensive, and able to make a business out of that. So I know you can buy those diamonds if you know what to look for. I mean, you do a simple training. I'm quite sure you can find a diamond training somewhere on Skillshare or wherever. Do that, so you know about it, and then start thinking about these things.
Huh. That is a great idea. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
I didn't know you had a dog.
Hello. She can't stay away. She's constantly licking and biting me. She wants attention, so I decided to pick her up.
Oh, that's adorable. What's your dog's name?
Sisi.
Sisi.
It's after the Austrian queen Sisi from the 1800s or 1900s.
Oh.
There's a queen in Austria called Sissi. Sisi.
Oh. Not Shishi, thank you.
No, that's the whole thing. Like when we found her, because we kind of found her. My son called her She because it's a girl.
Oh, Shishi.
and then I said, well, that's not really a name, so how about Sisi? And they agreed on it.
Cool.
And now, after she's always been extremely happy living with us, and now she starts defending the house. So when she hears sounds, she's barking and things like that because she's just pleased here. She doesn't want anybody to disturb that happiness. So she's defending the place. And
that's sweet.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so let's. I think we should wrap it up and figure out what are we going to talk about next time. Are we just going to do similar thing where we have something like a show and tell? Does that sound good?
Let's find more gadget or fun stuff or stupid stuff. At least something worth to talk about.
Okay. Okay, let's do that. We'll each come up with a thing. Could be a physical thing that we have. I'm always buying weird gadgets. My latest is, but I don't necessarily want to make it a gadget show, but I got these on sale. They're glasses that have Bluetooth speakers built into them.
Nice.
And I've been wanting these for a long time, but here in America, prescription check is like $198, and that's like a deal to get a prescription done. And in China, it was like free with the glasses.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh my god! And then the
lenses. You found a new business model, Tori.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I think it's mostly the regulations. Like you have to, in order to accept a prescription, there's laws. When you make glasses, you have to accept a authenticated, legal prescription, or you can get in trouble. And then to do a prescription, there's all this, you got to check for, I don't know, the elasticity of your eye and whatever the heck they check, all this unnecessary stuff. So it's a whole big deal. So I'm thinking as a hack, I may go to Mexico, which is about an hour south of here, and just get a prescription there. And then the lenses I want are like almost $300 because there's a new
That's
style of lens that transitions to like silver. So like when you're inside, you can see through them, and then in the sun, not just darker, which I've had before, but also like silver. And I'm like, that is so cool. I want to do that. But I don't know.
but that's still a really lucrative industry because it's like I don't know, $3 of material. It's
Yeah.
just like you invest in a machine and you let it run. It totally does everything by itself.
Oh wow. There is I mean there's a lot of competition. You can get cheap lenses online now. Warby Parker is one of the ones that disrupted the industry here in America.
Yeah.
Um, but you're saying just as a cottage industry, I could, or you mean you're thinking bigger?
Well, I think I've seen people come up with really good solutions for big problems. This one is really different, but just one example. There was a team in India, and there was a doctor, an eye doctor in India, who always saw patients coming from villages, and they had to travel to the city, go to a hospital, get a treatment, and they had to, for that treatment, they had to put drops in their eye, which make their vision blurry, and they couldn't go back home until that was solved, like 8 hours later or whatever. And then they had to travel back for a measurement. It was a measurement on their eyes. And the guy came up with a small box, like a shoe box size of device, which he could send to the people in a village. They didn't have to put drops in their eyes. They could just do a test for 5 minutes and send the box back, and the data was stored in the box or go online. I don't know. And then when it came back, he had the data he needed. So there are people coming up with really good solutions for common problems, and it would surprise me if prescriptions cannot be done fully automated with a device. Like you just go in a shopping mall
they can. There's a
and
device.
you sit and that would be good enough to.
There is. They have them in China, and when you go to Warby Parker, they have one, but they're not legally allowed to give you a prescription based off the results. So what they do is they use it as like a test to see like how expensive your lenses are going to be. Like, okay, you're within this range, but really it's good enough to give you lenses. It's just
and that's what I mean. I mean, if you just don't call it a prescription, it's like you say, okay, we're selling you glasses, but they are not prescribed glasses. But you, as a customer, have exactly the same result, so you don't care that they're not prescribed.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel, at least in America, the barrier is not the technology; it is the industry, the political will to make these kind of changes, especially in the field of healthcare. It's just there's just too much money in making it complicated. It's sort of a known problem that's been, there's been documentaries about it and stuff, and it's just too lucrative to make it complicated.
Right. Totally.
So I'm not sure how to get around that. That's a big problem. That would be amazing to solve.
1 second.
Sure.
I think Cici wanted to get out of the room because she was so much asking attention. So I'll let her out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could go. I don't know if I want to like rag on the problems of America right now, but it's
Heck America.
It's a mess. Yeah, I mean, still, it's a pretty cool country, all in all. But I think one of the things that would go a long way towards fixing it is if people actually voted. because we don't have very large turnout here. So I don't know. That's a big, complicated mess.
Even if people vote, I mean,
Yeah.
the real people who have the real power
Sure.
is perhaps not necessarily the president or the Congress.
That's true, but there's incentives to make you not vote. There's politicians that don't want you to vote, and we get leaders that nobody wants because of the way they manipulate the. I don't want to get into too many conspiracies or whatever, but there's like, there's some just because of incentives of making money, I think. We just have to adjust the incentives.
I think it's power or money, right? That's just like the two things what keep people.
Yeah, like I don't think it's a conspiracy so much as just a passive, like poisoning the commons or whatever. Not being very eloquent about this, but the like poisoning the well, where like one example is the water shortage in California makes it so that growing almonds, which is a water intensive crop, is more lucrative because it takes more water, and so you make more money by using more water than you should, because you can charge more for them because they're so hard to make. It's
Right.
Anyway. It's not like it's anyone's fault. It's like you can't point your finger and you say this corporation is evil. It's just sort of an alignment of what we measure and how we value things as a society.
I think the same is like with vanilla. Like traditionally vanilla is it's a plant.
Oh,
and the orchid from the vanilla was like pollinated by one specific kind of bee, and the bee had to kind of lift a leaf to go into the flower and then do its thing and go out and pollinate it, and that bee is extinct. So vanilla flowers are not pollinated anymore. Now there's two ways about this. So you can hand pollinate, which is a very labor-intensive process, and you get only like 10% of the yield of bees doing it. They can do it much more efficiently, but you can also synthesize vanilla. Now, if you do it manually, but let's say the price of vanilla was, I don't know, but let's say $20 per kilogram when the bees did it. Now you do it manually, it's like $500 per kilogram because that's how much it costs, the labor and then all the extra things, whatever, so it's 500. Now you can synthesize vanilla and it's the same thing and it tastes the same and there's nothing different. And that, I think, can technically be done for, let's say, $5 per kilogram because it's just a factory process, right? It's very simple. But guess how much they ask for a kilogram of synthesized vanilla?
Yeah, a lot less. I don't know.
No, $490.
Oh, wow.
Because the only alternative is hand pollinated, and that's 500. So why sell it for 20? I mean, you can sell it for 490. People still buy.
Wow. Yeah, so it wouldn't even make sense to do it the old way by hand because you can't get because you can sell the other cheaper stuff for so much more.
Well, I just think if somebody comes up with an Airbnb version of synthesizing vanilla, or an Uber version of synthesizing vanilla, then we can have vanilla again for $20 per kilogram. It just have to be a startup kind of disrupting that market.
Well, all right. Well, we've got an hour, so let's wrap it up. And I don't know what we would do for a sign off. Just say one podcast I'm listening to right now. They say, as we say in our hometown, don't forget to be awesome. That'd be cool if we had something. Did we say something last time? Don't hack something. I don't know. Be excellent to each other.
For troublemaker, I used to put in my email signature something like, remember to behave as a troublemaker, like have fun, behave as a troublemaker, and live without regret.
Oh, I think we said make something, break something, and fix something. Yeah, or I like that, but that's taken. What you said, that's really good. Make something, break something, make something, and take something. No.
Yeah. Maybe other way around. Take something. Make something, break something.
Yeah, I like that. Take something, make something, break something. Yeah, that's because for some reason you say take something at the end, it makes it sound like criminal.
Yes.
Take something, make something, and then break something, because at the end that's the sort of like the twist.
It's a learning moment.
Make something, break something. Take something, make something.
First, you take something from our podcast, like you,
right.
you take something what you learn, then you make something with it, and then you break something. It's the moment where you learn how it doesn't work.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you all for listening. Don't forget to take something, make something, and break something.
Cool.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.